I'm gonna be straight with you. I wasn't supposed to be there that night. She told me it was just a girls' night, you know. The kind of thing where I'd be the awkward guy sitting in the corner while they talk about reality shows and wine. I wasn't suspicious at first. Truth is, I've been with Jenna for almost 2 years, and I never had a reason to doubt her. She's the type who calls me on her lunch break, sends me pictures of her coffee, asks if I want anything from the store. But that night, something felt off. Maybe it was the way she kept saying, "Don't worry about it," in that sing-song voice, or how she laughed a little too quick when I asked who was going to be there. You ever get that gut feeling like the back of your brain is whispering, "Hey, pay attention"? That was me all day. By the time she left, wearing this new dress I'd never seen before, hair done in a way she usually only does for date nights, I couldn't shake it. I told myself I was overthinking, but then I noticed her leaving earlier than she said she would, and not heading toward her friend Emily's place like she mentioned. That's when my brain started connecting dots I didn't even want to see. I sat there for maybe 20 minutes, just staring at the wall. Then I grabbed my keys. I didn't even have a plan, just this weird, tight feeling in my chest. I drove slow, half hoping I was wrong, half praying I wouldn't find anything. But then I saw her car, not at Emily's, not even close. It was parked outside this small Airbnb downtown, the kind of place people rent for weekends or, well, for things you don't put on Instagram. My stomach dropped. I thought about calling her right then, but something told me to wait, to see, to know for sure. I parked 2 streets over, kept my headlights off, and just watched. A few minutes later, I saw Emily pull up. Then 2 other women I didn't recognize, all dressed like they were going out clubbing. They laughed, carried bags inside, disappeared. No guys, no music, just the door shutting and silence. That silence was worse than anything. I sat there another 10 minutes, debating if I should just leave. But curiosity? It's a dangerous thing. I walked up to the building, quiet as I could, and found a side path to the backyard. The curtains were closed, but there was this little gap near the sliding door. And that's when I saw them. Not doing anything crazy, not yet, but huddled around a table like they were in some secret meeting. Phones out. Whispering. Laughing. I couldn't hear the words. But the vibe? It wasn't girls catching up over wine. Something about the way they kept looking at the door. Like they were expecting someone else. My heart was pounding so hard I thought they'd hear it. I leaned closer, careful not to be seen. And that's when the front door opened. A guy stepped in, then another, then a third. All strangers. All way too comfortable walking into that room. The energy shifted instantly. The laughter got louder. The body language changed. I froze. My first thought was to storm in, demand an explanation. But a part of me, I needed to see where this was going. I know that sounds messed up, but in that moment, I felt like I'd been dropped into a movie I didn't audition for. And if I left early, I'd never know the ending. I stepped back into the shadows and moved toward the side window, where the blinds didn't fully close. That's when I saw it, the thing that made my stomach twist into knots and my hands shake. I won't go into detail, but let's just say, it wasn't the kind of thing anyone could explain away with, "Oh, it was just for fun," or, "You're overreacting." I stood there, jaw clenched, watching the person I thought I knew turn into someone I didn't recognize. And in that moment, 1,000 thoughts hit me all at once about trust, about how much of our relationship was real, and about what I was going to do when she finally saw me. But I didn't move. Not yet, because the night was just getting started, so I'm standing there half hidden by this busted fence panel. And my heart is racing like I just ran a mile. You know that feeling when your body wants to move, but your brain's like, "Wait, not yet?" That was me. I kept telling myself, just one more minute, just see a little more. Maybe it'll all make sense. Maybe there's some wild, completely innocent explanation that'll make me feel like an idiot for following her. But the longer I watched, the harder that hope got to hold on to. The guys were getting comfortable, jackets off, laughing like they'd all known each other for years. One of the girls, not Jenna, pulled out a bottle from her bag, the kind of thing you don't usually find at a casual hangout, and poured shots like it was some initiation. And here's the thing, Jenna wasn't avoiding them. She wasn't hanging back, looking awkward, wishing she was somewhere else. No, she was right there in the mix, laughing, leaning in, like this was her scene. That part hit harder than anything. I could almost deal with being lied to if she looked like she regretted it. But she didn't. She looked like she belonged there. I shifted my weight and the fence creaked just a tiny sound, but enough to make one of the guys glance toward the window. I froze, barely breathing. He shrugged it off and turned back. But now my pulse was in my ears. I thought about leaving right then, just walking away, going home, pretending I never saw any of this. But that little voice in my head said, if you walk away now, you'll always wonder. You'll never have the truth. So I stayed. 20 minutes must have passed, though it felt like an hour, before something changed. They all started looking at their phones, checking the time. One of the women, Emily, I think, went to the door. A knock. Not loud, just deliberate. She opened it, and in walked another guy, older than the rest, dressed way sharper. The kind of guy who carries himself like he's in charge. The room quieted for a second. Then he smiled and everyone relaxed. That's when I knew this wasn't just a hangout. This was something planned. Something they'd done before. The older guy set a bag down on the table, unzipped it, and I couldn't see what was inside from my angle. But whatever it was made everyone lean in like kids at story time. My mind was spinning. Was this some shady business deal? Was Jenna involved? Was I watching my girlfriend slip into something way over her head? Then I saw her take something from the bag and laugh as she showed it to one of the guys. I felt my jaw clench so hard it hurt. And I'm thinking, do I go in now? Do I confront her in front of everyone, or wait until she's alone? Part of me wanted the explosion, the shock, the scrambling, the lies falling apart. But another part of me wanted her to know I'd seen it all. Every second. I backed away from the window and circled around to the front, staying in the shadows. My plan, if you could call it that, was to wait until someone left, then slip in through the open door. But before I could get into position, the front door opened again. Jenna stepped outside. Alone. She had her phone to her ear, pacing, looking over her shoulder like she was checking the street. My heart was in my throat. I thought she'd see me any second. But she didn't. She walked down toward the corner, still talking, still glancing back. I couldn't hear the words, but her face told me enough. Whatever was going on inside, she didn't want it overheard. This was my chance. I moved fast, up the steps, and the door wasn't locked. One push, and I was inside. In this dimly lit living room that smelled like cheap perfume and whiskey. Everyone turned to look at me at once. For a beat, nobody said a word. Then Emily's eyes widened. Who are you?" she asked, like she didn't know exactly who I was. I ignored her and scanned the room, my voice steady but low. "Where's Jenna?" They glanced at each other, shifting like guilty kids. "Bathroom," one of the guys muttered. I didn't buy it. I took a step toward the bag on the table, and that's when the older guy moved, blocking me. "I think you should leave," he said, calm but firm. My eyes locked on his. "Not until I get some answers." You could feel the tension, thick and brittle, like one wrong word could snap it. Then, from behind me, the front door opened again, and Jenna's voice froze me in place. "What are you doing here?" I turned slowly toward her voice, and there she was, Jenna, frozen in the doorway, phone still in her hand, eyes darting from me to the bag on the table. You know that look when someone's brain is scrambling, trying to figure out which version of the truth they can get away with? Yeah, that was written all over her face. I didn't say anything at first. I just stood there, letting the silence work on her. The older guy shifted his weight like he was about to speak, but I held up a hand without looking at him. My eyes stayed on her. So, girls' night, huh? I said, my voice low but steady. She opened her mouth, closed it, then glanced at Emily like she was waiting for backup. Emily looked away. That told me plenty. Jenna took a breath, stepped inside, and shut the door behind her. It's not what you think, she started. I laughed. Not loud, not happy. Just that kind of laugh you do when the person in front of you has no idea how done you are. Really? Because from where I'm standing, it looks exactly like what I think. The room went still. One of the younger guys muttered something under his breath, and I shot him a look that shut him up fast. Jenna put her phone in her pocket and tried again. We were just talking about something personal. I stepped closer to the table, my eyes on the half-zipped bag. Personal enough to need him here? I nodded at the older guy. Personal enough to need everyone checking the door every 5 minutes? She hesitated, just long enough for the truth to bleed through. You followed me? She said, like that was the problem. I almost laughed again. Yeah, I followed you. You know why? Because you were lying before you even left the house. I could see the shift, her realizing she couldn't spin this the way she wanted. We didn't do anything, she said, voice dropping. But her eyes flicked to the others like she needed them to back her up. Nobody said a word. That silence was all the answer I needed. I took another step toward the bag, but the older guy put a hand on it. Enough, he said quietly. This isn't your business. My jaw tightened. She's my girlfriend. That makes it my business. He stared at me for a long second, then slid the bag toward himself and zipped it shut. Then you should ask her what's inside. Jenna's face went pale. That was it. That was the crack in the armor I'd been waiting for. Go ahead, I said, my voice almost calm. Tell me. She didn't. She just stood there, frozen, while the weight of the moment pressed down on all of us. I shook my head, turned toward the door. You know what? I don't even need to know. I've already seen enough. I walked out without looking back, down the steps, into the cool night air. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the rush of finally being done. I didn't hear her following me until I was halfway to my car. Wait, she called, her voice breaking. I stopped, turned. For what? So you can try one more lie? She looked desperate now. Please, just let me explain. I held up a hand. Explain it to someone who cares. Because whatever that was in there, that's not us anymore. Her eyes welled up, and for a second, I almost felt something sadness. Maybe, but then I remembered her laugh through the window. The way she fit into that room like she'd been there 100 times before. I got in my car, started the engine, and drove off. I didn't look back. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was sad, but because my mind was clear. In a way it hadn't been in months. I'd been holding on to an idea of her, this perfect, loyal person who'd never betray me. But the reality? She was just someone who could smile to my face and lie in the same breath. A few days later, she texted me. No big confession, no apology, just a message that said, I guess you're done with me. I didn't reply. She didn't deserve my words. And maybe that's the part people don't get. Sometimes closure isn't about getting all the answers. It's about knowing enough to walk away and never open that door again. And trust me, I locked it behind me.